Hey guys, this is Steve from Financial Python, and I wanted to put together a hopefully quick video on how to code an EMA crossover in Python. I think most of you probably know what an EMA crossover is, but for those that don't, I have on my site here, and I have Apple's daily chart up, and we see I'm showing the EMA 9, EMA 21, the exponential moving average for those time periods. And we can see a crossover is just, I mean, literally what it sounds like when the lines cross over each other. So here we see the EMA 9 crossing above the EMA 21, which is typically considered bullish. Here we can see the EMA 9 crossing below, which is typically considered bearish. So without further ado, let's get into how we would code this in Python. So the first thing I'm going to do, as always, is import the packages that I need. So I'm going to use yfinance to pull down stock data. I'm going to use pandas for the data frames to read that data, and I'm going to use NumPy in order to do some calculations on that data. So let me import these. While it's working, we can start. So what we'll do is pull down basically, I don't know, the same chart we were just looking at. We can look at Apple. So let me pull down from yfinance. We'll pull down Apple. We have to give a start date, which I'll say, I don't know, was 5 years ago. So it's currently April 5th, 2023. So we'll say April 5th, 2018. And end will just be today. Obviously, in some sort of script, this should be dynamic, but I'm just going to hard code it as an example. Yep. Okay, so let's pull this down. That looks good. I'm just going to confirm it's here. Okay, so we see this data frame of Apple data for the last 5 years. Okay, so now that we have the data frame with these columns, I mean, we're really not going to use many of them, really just the closing price for this example. But what we can do is add new columns for the EMA, the short time period and the long time period. So I know in the example, we looked at the EMA 9, the EMA 21. Again, everybody uses their own, so can really add whatever you want to the database. So I'm just going to, to the data frame. So I'm just going to give examples. So we'll just say EMA short equals the close price. And luckily, data frames have this built-in method to calculate the exponentially weighted moving average, which is this .ewm. So we're going to use that. For the short time period, we'll just set it to 9, just the same as the example we're in. I'm going to set adjust to false, because in this method, adjust is going to change the way the values are weighted, which I don't want to do. And from there, I'm going to take the average of those values to put in each place in the data frame. So we're going to do the same thing with the long one. So we have an EMA short. We'll get an EMA long, and we'll mark that as 21. Okay, so let's run that. Okay, and let's print out this data frame one more time. Okay, so you see now we have an EMA short and an EMA long. So we see, that goes throughout the throughout things here. Don't actually see any crossovers in any of these examples, but yeah, so we see again, like we have a EMA short, EMA long. We could set those to whatever we want. Today we're using the 9 and the 21. So from there, the next thing we would want to do is calculate when the short was above the long. So when we were in a bullish time period, and when the short was below the long in a bearish time period. And then from there, we'll actually figure out when those values switch. So to do this, I'm going to put a new column in the data frame. I'll just call it bullish, which again is just when the short is over the long. So I'm going to set that to 0 to start. And then I'm going to say mark, we'll say bullish equals NP where. Basically, again, I'm going to do a calculation to see when the short is above the long in this case. So I'm going to say in the data frame, when EMA short is above Apple data frame EMA long is greater than, saying above, we'll say, basically I'm doing a ternary operator here, say, you know, when it's greater than, mark it as 1, when it's less than, mark it as 0. Okay, and let me just save that, make sure this is correct. No, did I spell this wrong? Oh, I did spell this wrong. Whoops, 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 whoops. There we go. Okay, and again, I'm going to say when these values are different, like when there's a change, we're going to mark that as a crossover. So we'll just create a new column called crossover. Diff. Okay, just run that in here as well. No issue. Okay, so let's go back. And okay, so we see we have a column of bullish. That's going to be 1 when it's, or so we can look at this example. We see the EMA short is below the EMA long, so bullish is set to 0. And when the EMA short is above the EMA long, bullish is set to 1 because we're in a bullish time period. No examples of the crossover in these printouts, but we'll see those as we continue to go. And I think actually that's probably the last thing we want to do, actually, is print these out so we can see them. So I'm going to use matplotlib, which I didn't import yet, so I'll just import it here to print out this chart. We can see what this example looks like. And I think I'm actually going to fast forward this because typing out all this like matplotlib jargon of you know, how to print out a data frame just takes a while, and it's not really part of this lesson. I'll make another video on that in the future, so I'm just going to fast forward at this point. Okay, I think that's all in now. So basically what I did is I plotted, I'm plotting a chart of these crossovers. So what, you know, we're seeing is I'm plotting the close, the short, the long, and every time there is a crossover, I'm putting a mark in there, one that's, you can see it's either basically like an up caret or a V. It's going to show the different, basically like an up arrow or a down arrow. So let's run that. Okay, so you can kind of see this here. We see, you know, in the every time there's a cross below, we have a down arrow, and every time there's a cross above, we have a green arrow, which maybe I think, you know what, let me try not being as zoomed in on the data. Let me do maybe 2 years to see if we can probably see that a little better, actually. So I'm going to create a new data frame. Okay, so we can kind of see this better since we're a little zoomed in. But you can see, again, every time there is a cross to the upside, we have our little chart, a little key here. So the EMA short, every time there's a cross to the upside, we see a green arrow, every time indicating a buy signal. And every time there is a cross to the downside, we have a red triangle upside down, red arrow indicating a sell signal. Okay, so that's it. That's really what I wanted to show, just how to code an EMA crossover. Hope you guys learned something. Thanks for sticking with me. Alrighty, bye.